Hey guys, we have a new moon in Capricorn at 1 degree, and I'm going to show you here. This is Astro Seek. So what you can do is if you go to this site, you'll be able to look at your own chart. But today, if I show you here and you look at this up here, this is the link that you'd be looking for. So you could stop and I'll put the link below actually, because it's a great site to basically learn and understand your own astrology. The moon, as you can see, will be in Capricorn at 1 degree, if you can see here. And this will be conjunct the sun. So the new moon is always with the sun at the same degree, and a full moon is where the moon is opposite the sun. We have also Jupiter is in 0 degrees of Aries now. The next time that will reach Pisces will be in 2033. This just took place in the last few days. We've got Chiron in Aries. We've got the North Node in Taurus and Uranus conjunct the North Node in Taurus here. We can also see that Mars is still retrograde. You see the little R here? You can see that Mars is retrograde. And we've got Lilith, which true Lilith is in opposition at the moment to, let's see up here, to Venus actually, and also Mercury. We've got vertex here. You may not know what that is in your chart, so I won't go into it. South Node is in Scorpio at 12 degrees. North Node is in 12 degrees of Taurus. And then we've got the moon in Capricorn. The sun is also in Capricorn. Venus is in Capricorn and Mercury is in Capricorn, and so is Pluto. And we've got Saturn in 21 degrees of Aquarius. We've got Neptune 22 degrees of Pisces, and this is called the part of fortune there, but I won't go into that either. So if we look at this moon in Capricorn, and what you want to do, what I'm going to do is go over to my chart and I'm going to show you something. So if I go here, you're going to see that if you can get your own chart and bring that up, if you want help with that, then you can book a session with me. If you want to understand this in a more defined understanding and what's going on in your chart, then I can help you with that. I can also print off natal PDFs if you're interested in that. You just send me if you want to work with me on that, then send me a message and I'll happily discuss with you how I can do that for you. We've got, for me, that you can see that I'm 27 degrees Scorpio rising. The moon, when it reaches the sun, it will be in my first house tomorrow. So I will tell you what that means as well in the first house, because that's very useful. But I'll tell you that after we've looked at something else. But what's very interesting, if I now go over to actually, this will help you better. For a chart like this, you want to go to astro.com, and if you pay a fee there, you can put a load of charts, up to 1,000 charts on your system, which is brilliant. And also you can also do the free astrology birth chart at here, which it would be at Astro Seek, so they're different platforms, so different formats, which are really good to know. So transit calculator, this is the moon that's happening, and you can see, as I've shown you, we've got, these are aspects in the middle, which the most important part, not the most important part, but as the transits and the planets move, we get to see what's going on for us in an emotionally and in a physical way in our own lives. And I find it to be true, like for instance, that Mars is in my 7th house at the moment and it's going retrograde. So I'm going over the way I deal with my relationships. I'm going over the way that I interact with people, and I'm pushing back where I need to push back, but I'm also learning to deal with things in a whole different way. I was going to show you something else, but we'll go over to solar fire now, because I love solar fire. So let me just do a new share And what I'm going to show you, because we can move the chart on solar fire, and if you've watched this before, you know that already. So if you look, I'll make this smaller, hang on a minute, spotlight off, and I'm going to go here. So you can see this chart, and if I go doing this, and then I'm going to go spotlight. So this is the chart of tomorrow of the moon. You can see, in fact, a little bit back there, because it's got to be the same degree. So if I'm going to go minutes, so you can see there it's the moon and the sun are together, the sun and the moon, sun, moon together. And I'm going to go back, so they're both the same degree. So that's 1 degree 32. Now, if we look at what this moon means, I'm going to give you some keywords from evolutionary astrology information, but generally they're standard. The keywords for Capricorn are, get my glasses, are social position. So if we think about it, it's a Capricorn Saturn, it's social position, it's authority, it's judgment, it's the judge, it's maturity, it's old age, repression, oppression, grief, isolation, conformity, paralysis. It's where we can be rigid, it can be fear, discipline, and also punishment. Man-made law, it's ancestral, and it's tradition, it's guilt, self-defeat, futility, boundaries, structures. Because if you think of Saturn, we've got the structures and the boundaries, and we need to, at the moment, define them within ourselves. You know, what's outside ourselves and what's inside ourselves. There's a boundary, and which we can take things outside ourselves as being meaningful, but when we look inside, we've got more meaning inside us. You know, something doesn't particularly, whilst I may think something, or money or whatever gives me meaning or prestige, really it's what's inside me that is the real stuff. We have politics with the Capricorn keywords: responsibility, it can be depression, where we feel burdened, a fall from grace, and conditioning by family and society. And also, you can see this chart is 0 degrees here of Aries. And if you look at this moon and the sun at the moment, we've got, let me just see here, we've got basically that this is opposition to the 4th house. The 10th house is opposition to the 4, which is our deepest roots, and it's a sign of Cancer. And this is our feelings and our emotions, which is to do with the moon as well. You know, the Cancer and the moon are related. When we look at a new moon in the 10th house, and I'm reading here from some information I've got, so that's what I'm doing in the 10th house. So if we take into account Capricorn as well, but whatever the 10th house is, this is the 10th house for everybody. It doesn't matter what planet is in the 10th house, but we've got the 10th house rules our career, life path, and authority figures. A new moon here shows career advancement. So a new moon is about where we want to advance. It's also where we dealing with a superior, dealing with people that we consider either above us or stuff like that. And it's a change in our life path. So this is a time when we're looking for changes. It's like, what is really important to me? And that's what we're looking at with this new moon. It's where we present ourselves the best we can at all times, because we may feel that people are watching us more and looking at what we've accomplished. And it's difficult to keep things hidden at this time as well. This is with a new moon, okay? So it's best if we keep things on the straight and narrow. We can also, at this time, it's where it can be truer than we think during this time. So things can be more true to us at this time, like what is real for us, you know, that boundary of outside and what's inside. It's also a time where it could be a new career path. But I will tell you, this moon is falling for me in my 2nd house. So you don't want to take this just as I'm reading it here. You want to apply this to your own chart, because it's in my 1st house, which I'll tell you what that means after this. So this is useful information, because you'll be able to, in time, if you keep reading different people's charts and you keep looking at the archetypes and you're looking at the aspects, eventually you begin to integrate it all together, and then you're able to read charts, because astrology basically is a language. It's like reading a foreign language, and it's symbolism and it's an understanding of what those things mean, and then you put it together and you string it all together. So at the moment, we don't want to get overwhelmed by how much we have to do. We need to delegate what we need to delegate. And it's a very interesting time because it's just coming up to Christmas. So it's important that we delegate and don't try and do everything ourselves either. And also to rest and take some time off for ourselves. And we may have important tasks, but we want to stay focused and as best we can and keep track of things. So this is where long-term goals can be formulated that are now more realistic and attainable. So in a way, with the Saturn archetype, it gives us a boundary, but it's also where we have to mature and where we want to, be looking at different areas of our lives and sort of deciding what's right for us and what isn't right for us. For me, it's in my first house, this new moon. Now, you can do this for yourself. You can Google, if it's falling in your third house or your fourth house, just Google that a new moon in the whatever house it's in, so you can understand. And a new moon affects the whole month, and a full moon affects 2 weeks after. So you can take that into account too. So for me, the new moon, it's where I'll be looking at reinventing myself. And it's also, and it's quite interesting because I've just started doing reels on my Instagram, which I've not done before. So it's like a reinventing of myself. And it's also doing an internal overhaul for me. That will be good for me now. It's how I come across and how I express myself. Maybe things I focus on changing to better reflect the inner me. And I actually really, going on about it, I've never done reels before, and I actually really enjoyed them. They're very short. You can make them 60 minutes, 30 seconds, 60 seconds, and 90 seconds. And the 90-second one seems to suit me, where I can get a message across and feel that I'm connecting more with people, just rather than just doing YouTube. So this is what I'm doing. This is very interesting with this new moon in my first house. It's also where I'm likely to be quite busy and more eager about life. So I do feel, and especially trying new things. So you can see this has only been a couple of days this has been going on for me. It's where I want to meet new people, have new experiences, and I'm more courageous and daring. It's a good time to try something that you've been a little gun shy about in the past, which would be what I've been doing in the last couple of days. Being in the spotlight doesn't seem so uncomfortable now, and you may put yourself out there more or end up getting more attention. That'd be good for something naturally. So it's natural, and it was natural. It wasn't forced. So when we look at a full moon or new moon, full moon, new moon, it's an initiation. It's a beginning. And it's the beginning of a cycle. Action is instinctual. And if we look, it's very Mars-like. It's like, moving forward. But we do have Mars retrograde at the moment. That's going to be going direct. I'll show you when. I'm going to go days. So watch here. See Mars there? I hope I'm sharing the right screen. I'm sure I am. Let me just double check. So new share. Yeah, I'm sharing this page. So what we have is that Mars is going to go direct. So let me get rid of those. Watch this. So Mars, this is the 23rd. This is the moon, the new moon right now. Up here, you see. And then if we go forward, we go 1, 2, 3. You're watching Mars down here, yeah? 4, 5, 6. And I think it's the 14th of January. Station, yeah, go. So stations on the 12th, and then it's stationed on still 13th, and then on the 14th it's direct. So then it's direct, and it will be in Gemini. It's been in Gemini forever, months now, and it will be there until the end of March, I believe. In fact, we can go forward weeks and watch that Mars, because that's our direction. And with it retrograde, we're held back a little bit, and we want to move forward, and we're being pulled back a bit, which is good. Inner reflection, in our communication, Gemini. So 11th, 18th of March, and that's the 25th. So now I'm going to go day one. There you go. So 25th, and then it will move into probably that day, the 25th. If I go hours, 1, 2, there you go. It is on the 25th. It's going to be moving into the sign of Cancer. And when we look at Mars, it's about 6 weeks, I believe, from recollection. 2 years around the chart, to give you an idea. So it spends a certain amount of time in each house, and then it goes retrograde every 2 years. Also, we've got Venus goes retrograde every 2 years as well. So, and actually here, this is really beautiful that on the 25th of March, let's go back. This is lovely what's happening here, because Mars and Pluto go together. So that one, I'm looking at Pluto up here, if you wonder what I'm looking at. There you go. So 0 degrees. It's in Aquarius. It's so beautiful to see. So the last time it would have been in Aquarius would have been 245 years ago, roughly. There you go. 1, 2, 3. So 23rd of March, we have Mars will be moving, as we know, into, if we go days now, so Pluto Aquarius. Now Pluto in Aquarius, it will go retrograde again, and then eventually it will move into 2024, it will move into the sign of Aquarius again. It'll go back into Capricorn, move back into Aquarius, and then it will be there for 20 years. We're in for a big shift. We've got, that North Node Uranus connection. We're changing, fracturing. It's to do with our long-term memory. We're changing things inside us and collectively, the way things are done. So I will come back to this. Now, what I'm going to show you, if you see this book here, this is called Spiritual Astrology. There's so many books out there, but this is one that I picked up, a friend told me about a few years ago. And if I look at the moon in Capricorn, what's beautiful about this book, I'll put the link below and I suggest you get it. The moon in Capricorn, it's got here they base it on an unconscious expression and a conscious expression. So the unconscious expression, meaning what's unconscious. So as an example, with being what goes on in our unconscious, and Jung talked about this, what's unconscious in us will appear outside as fate. So if we have fears from childhood, introjects, things we took on board that weren't really anything to do with us, it was just the way we were treated or other people's belief systems, then we may have fears and anxieties about things that are nothing to do with our now reality, but there are things that we've been taught and that we're still running on those, but they're not conscious, they're unconscious in us. So for instance, if you've got a fear about losing money, if you go back to your childhood, somewhere along there, you may recall an event or a time. We need to clean up that sort of stuff. I had, most people are afraid of being abandoned, as an example, because we all have parents, whether they're good or bad or whatever, that feeling of abandonment. So doesn't matter whether our parents were good or bad. If we were abandoned, it does matter, but if they're bad, but it's, looking back, like we live life and then we look back. But if we've had a fear of being abandoned, now I went through some abandonment very young, and I play that out in adult relationships sometimes. I've got better at not doing that because I realize that everything I need other people. I've got Gemini Sun, Gemini Moon in 7. So I need other people to speak to. But ultimately, it's learning that we can live in a state of mind that we're willing to lose everything. And that doesn't mean being destructive or creating situations where we do lose everything. It just means that we get to a point where we're able to be at peace because we don't have ultimate control over everything. But the things that we can look after are our state of being, the more we understand our unconscious stuff. And it's our unconscious generally that will hold us back on things. And we won't go forward because of things that we don't even remember why we don't do something, or that we're having a problem with something or other. We don't even know why. We just know we have a problem in an area. So it's worth looking at those things to heal them. The moon in Capricorn unconscious is when we unconsciously need others' reassurance that we are the most important part of the relationship. And it's also that doing that, we may manipulate emotionally to gain respect. So we can see this in society and politics and whatever. We get manipulated so that people want, these politicians, etc., want respect. So we get manipulated into things and belief systems. This can lead us, this is just not about politicians, it's life general. This can lead you to express needless dramas of personal suffering that force them to acknowledge and admire your ability to survive. You may instinctively guard your image and try to appease others by becoming for the moment what they respect. So it means then we're putting on a mask, yeah? We're not being ourselves. I'm going to be a particular way in order to, get what I want, that sort of attitude. But it's that can be conscious, like I'm going to do this in order to get that. It's like trading, something. And it can be unconscious as well. So in sacrificing our lives for self, for the respect of another, we lose our own identity. So this is the problem with this, that if we're going to sacrifice, I'm going to sacrifice something because I want, I want something from somebody. And then that means basically that authority is being misused and abused and such like. With the conscious expression, this means that the awareness, so we can be aware of our childhood. If we look back, like the money thing, like if we're afraid of losing everything, then where did we see that? What it could be from life or experiencing other people's losses that we are afraid of losses. The ultimate is, which is not nice to hear, but the ultimate is that we're all going to leave this planet. And if we get stuck in games with people, I'm reading a great book at the moment, which is called Games People Play by Eric Berne. It was written in 1964. So we're transacting, it's like a transaction. Capricorn, this is the house of the public face, so it's a transaction carried out. But we do this in our relationships. We play the adult, the parent, and the child. And we can get stuck sometimes in some relationships. There's no adult present at all. Some relationships, it's just the child, and the parent, like the savior and the child, and that can bounce backwards and forwards. So we want to bring the adult into our communications and our life, because that will make things easier for us. So get that book, Games People Play, is brilliant. The conscious expression of Capricorn is where we feel drawn to establish control in relationships. However, methods of having others validate our identity to lead to self-respect. The truth is that others cannot give respect when you are so busy cloaking yourself with their personalities. This process leaves you with no identity available to receive recognition. The lesson is to relinquish control over others in order to see who you are relating. You can achieve this by acknowledging the uniqueness of the person with whom you are dealing. So to take into account that we're all unique, which is difficult for us to understand that, but we are completely unique, every single one of us. So this in turn gives you insight into your own unique being and appreciation of yourself as different from others. So we need to appreciate our differences, and we don't want to be the same as other people. When you give others confidence in developing their ability to take charge of their own lives, you become aware of your power. Your sensitivity can nurture others and reflect back to them your assurance of their ability to succeed, to get top of their emotions. Their self-esteem enables them to rise to the occasion. This technique of support empowers you to experience your ability to organize and reach goals. So let me show you, if I go back now, I'm going to go back to today, which is the 22nd of December, 2022. Right, okay, so this is the chart of right now. And we can see all of these different aspects going on here. So I'm going to point out a few of the aspects and then I'll leave it there for today. But leave a message below to let me know where this moon is falling for you, because I'm interested. And if you want to book a session with me, then you can do that with the link below in the video as well. So we always know that the sun is conjunct the moon when we've got, but it's not because I've gone too far. It's the 23rd that I'm looking at. And we want the moon exact. So if we go back minutes, because you see it's 2 there, so we're going to go minutes back. We're going forward. I love solar fire. The moon, we might have to do an hour. And the moon takes 28 days around the chart. So then if I go back minutes, we want it at 32, 132 for both. And then we will see, there you go. All right, so then we've got all of these aspects going on. So the sun is conjunct the moon, yeah? That's called a conjunction when 2 planets are together, the sun and the moon. And then we've got stars. Sun square Jupiter. Sun is square to Jupiter. You see here? There's a square to Jupiter. So there's some tension there. And we've also got the sun square Neptune as well. So the sun is square to Neptune, but it's coming out of a square. Sun square Neptune. It's off by 8 degrees. So it's, you know, we've had that. So the moon is square Jupiter. Moon is also square to Jupiter. This is going to apply because they're both conjunct. And then the moon is square Neptune. So the moon square Neptune is coming out of that square as well. Mercury conjunct Venus, you can see here. This is quite beautiful. Now you can see these are going to hit Pluto. That Mercury is going to go retrograde. Also, Chiron is going to be going direct. You see it's stationed here. This is tomorrow. This is really brilliant. This is going to go direct because the wound that we've been feeling, the wounds, our inner wounds of not being good enough, we're working on those and we want to keep working on them. And that's the point of the Chiron in Aries. In fact, if I bring up the definition here, Chiron in Aries, basically the first house, it's where our sense of being has been violated in some way, and we may fear asserting ourselves. And it also will be where we overcompensate by attempting to be the first at everything because it's Mars, yeah? I want to be first, I want to be first. Physically, we may suffer some wounds physically, so we need to be careful. But this goes through the chart for, because it's Mars related, we want to move through that chart at, 50 years around the chart, that Chiron. It's also where we become a pioneer in a way which will serve humanity. So I see a lot of pioneers out there in what I see from people I know. There's a lot of people pioneering stuff, a lot of talent, and it's quite beautiful to see that. It's also where we can be, Chiron in Aries is where we can be wounded either emotionally or physically. So if you have this as a natal Chiron in Aries or a Chiron in the first house, my Chiron is in Pisces conjunct my IC, the bottom of the chart, and Saturn. It's been hardcore. But I've got some lovely aspects to it which have helped me with my own woundings as I've gone through life and had my Chiron return. And you will generally only have one Chiron return because unless you live to 100 and then you'll have 2. So it's every time you express your essential being, you may experience rejection. You may find that if you have Chiron in the first house. So you need to look at that. This may lead to self-exploration and you may later become a wounded healer or teacher. So we're all wounded, we've all been wounded by somebody, something. For many years, when people are wounded, they dissociate. And this is pretty normal to keep us, we want to stay alive and we, sort of block it out. But there comes a time when the wounds need to be addressed and dealt with. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to put this link of this book below and the link of the websites that I was showing you where these charts were from, because this will be helpful knowledge for you. And I hope you have a nice Christmas. I'm going to do a couple more videos in probably tomorrow, the day after. And I'll catch you later. Thanks for watching.